Hello everyone. I just thought I'd talk to you about when you first buy a set of paints or are presented with a set of paints as a present. I know years ago everyone knew I was interested in painting, and I had one or two little sets bought for me for Christmas and birthdays and that, and I just didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know where to begin. I'd never had any lessons, I hadn't got any books. I think I had a book on general painting which included other mediums as well, oil paint and acrylics, collage, etc. And I know there's plenty of publications available now on watercolour, but let's go back to very basics, because that's what a lot of people have problems with. So you're presented, and I'm not pushing any paints or anything, I've got this little set of paints. It doesn't matter if it costs £20 or if it costs £100. You just need to break the barrier of not being afraid of it. Now you might think that's a bit strange, afraid, but you are. And I think of it as, you know, if you've had a new car and it's nice and new, or it's different and newer than your old one, you don't want to scrape it, you've got to get used to it. Same with a new pair of shoes, you've got to wear them in. I mean, a new pair of shoes, you put them on, you think, oh, they're great, but you wouldn't do a mile, walk into town for a mile, do your shopping and then come back, because you've got to get used to them, you've got to wear them in. And it's exactly the same with paints, you've got to know your materials. So this is a typical example of a set of paints. Like I say, doesn't matter what make, how much they cost or anything, but you open them up and you think, oh, look at those, aren't they lovely, Well, if you're mad on art and painting, you do anyway. And they're like little jewels in a metal box that is even lovely in itself. So where do I start? Oh, I don't want to spoil them, It's like if you open, you can open a set of eyeshadows, and there's all these little tiny eyeshadow sections in the palette that you think, oh, I like that colour, I like that colour, I'm not keen on that, but it's so lovely that you don't want to spoil it. But don't think about that, all you've got to think about is these are a tool. So they're a tool for creating some artwork. So when that happened to me, I thought about, oh gosh, I don't want to spoil it, perhaps I'll buy some cheap ones and have a practice first. Forget all that, just dive straight in. So the first thing I did was unwrap all these lovely little palettes full of different colours, gorgeous colours, perhaps not in a set, perhaps not the colour you'd actually choose yourself, but that's a starter kit, and it's sometimes cheaper to buy a starter kit than individual colours. And I'm sure that there'll be some in there that you like and some that you won't bother with again, but then we'll move on to adding colours that we do like. So first thing I did, well, I didn't do actually, that's why I'm doing this video, knowing from experience, the first thing I would advise you to do is get a spray bottle and spray them all, and then make a colour chart so you can see exactly what colours you've got. If you can hear any noise, it's windy today, but at least it's not brilliant sunshine, which we've had for a few days, and it's been far too hot. So I'm starting with the first one and I'm working my way along the whole palette. So I've made a little chart. I've just drawn a few sections. There's 12 colours in this palette, and I've drawn 12 sections, and I've written the name of the particular colour of paint in at the top, and now I'm going to add the colour. So I'm just wetting the palette and I'm going into lemon yellow. That's that one. And then the next one is cadmium yellow light. not that much difference, but probably one is opaque and one isn't, or they might be both opaque, I don't know until I experiment with them. This is permanent carmine. That's a colour I've never used before in my experience as well. That's a lovely deep red, but got a pink tinge to it. Then we've got cadmium red light, which is definitely opaque, but a very useful colour. And then I've got ultramarine blue. Everyone should have ultramarine blue in their kit. You can use it in so many ways. It's a colour everyone must have. Then we've got Prussian blue. That's a bit darker. And a really nice colour, especially for seascapes. Then we've got phthalo green. Now, I find this a little bit artificial, especially for landscapes and seascapes, but it's in the set. I can't do anything about it. It's probably one I won't replenish. Olive green. Now, olive green, you know, that's more natural. That's more suitable for landscapes and foliage. Now this one is Venetian red. That's another good colour. It's a bit like light red for mixing and making a grey with ultramarine blue. Then we've got this lovely dark brown called sepia. I use sepia a lot. It's a grey brown, really useful. So then we've got yellow ochre. Now yellow ochre is a good colour to have in your kit. It's very similar to raw sienna. I think yellow ochre is slightly more opaque, so you've got to bear that in mind when you're mixing. And then we've got ivory black. I never use black, but it's in the kit. What can we do about it? Not a lot really, but this is the point I'm making. You know, your teachers and books will say never use black in watercolour. What if you mix that black with something like, if I just, oh, that's got a bird on. Anyway, here's a little sketchbook. What if I mix this cadmium yellow light with Mars black? Makes a green. Look at that, a lovely natural green. And I didn't know that till I've just done it, you know. So there's ways and means around using the colours that are presented to you in these kits. I've covered that up. That's just masking tape because I don't want to reveal the manufacturer, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm just here to tell you and explain about when you first open a new set of paints and getting to know your colours. Now look at that. That's taught me a lesson. I didn't know until just, but I will be using Mars black and cadmium yellow light in future because I love that. So moving on, once you've done that, if you're a very beginner, you know, make a colour chart of all your colours. You might have gone to some classes or something and seen some other colours that really, you know, tempt you to thinking, oh wow, that's lovely. And this is the set of paints I've got at the moment, because after 30-40 years of painting I've got all my favourite colours here. But I always make a colour chart because sometimes I can't remember what colour they are. Okay, so you will get to that stage once you get more experienced and you know, try different colours, and you'll get your favourites and discard the ones you don't get. So going on to a small palette, what I do, I buy these little palettes, I buy these little wells that go inside, which are pence, you know, really good. And depending where I'm going, like this one is like a general colour if I'm out and about in the countryside and painting flowers, a bit of fields, trees, etc. Different to this one, which is seascape colours. When I'm in St Ives, where you know, I spend a lot of my time, I do lots of seascapes. But you can also buy some little palettes, like this is a Daniel Smith one, and they already come with nearly all of them filled up, but leaving gaps for you to add your own favourite colours. And I made a colour chart for that, and that's a pretty general one, and they are really good paints, Daniel Smith, I don't mind admitting that. And then this is a Seascape one, but I still made the colour chart. I can't emphasise enough how important it is for you to make a colour chart, so you can think to yourself, oh wow, how do I paint that, whatever's in front of you, and you can check your colours. And once you get used to mixing colours as well, you'll know exactly what to choose by looking at your chart. So keep following me, and then we'll move on to the next stage. We'll move on to the next stage about mixing colours, and take it from there and get some unusual mixes, and how I make a really thick book full of just mixing colours, which is so useful, and when you become a serious painter, that you can't do without.